Hi everyone. For our case study, we'll be analyzing case one about scheduling employees at Big Town Fire, and I'll be joined with my team members, Solan and Carlos. For the project at hand, we are responsible for allocating the workers and making sure that these requirements on the PowerPoint are met. The standard shifts for each firefighter is 4 days and 12 hours a week, and followed by three consecutive days off. The goal of this case study is to plan the schedule so that the big town will be able to save the most money. The fundamental challenge that Big Town faces is the allocation of firefighters in the least costly way, but also making sure that the requirements are met. The assumptions that we made are that firefighters are not sick, everyone will show up to work, no employees will work more than one shift, firefighters are willing to work night shifts for more compensation and benefits, and the number of employees in the system will satisfy the problem. The implications of our project is that firefighters are going to be overworked, and as they work more, the quality of these firefighters will diminish. As seen in the PowerPoint, to satisfy the constraints of the problem, we have split up the employees into day and night shifts. The optimal solution at benchmark is $127,999.20, and the number changes as we increase the required number of shifts for the firefighters. Firefighters worked 4 consecutive days and have 3 consecutive days off. The table represents when these shifts start with the given constraint solver determined an optimal solution. However, there is more to consider in the real world, and this solution could be limiting. For example, what if more than one type of shift exists? What if more requirements are added? What if there is a shortage of labor? The next slides in this presentation will address these issues in regards to this problem. However, there are more issues that must be addressed that an integer program will always fall short with.
One obstacle we will face in this project is the increase of weekend shifts by 5, 10, 15, and 20%, and we see this will increase the total cost. For an example of an increase of 20% shifts on the weekend, the total cost would be $135,540, with a difference of $8,937. When we add part-time workers to the mix, we see a few things happen. When we optimize the scheduling, part-time workers take all the day shifts, and overall part-time workers are hired to bring the cost down. The main issue with part-time workers is that they are less skilled than full-time workers, and this can lead to many problems in the future. We can see that part-time workers make up more of the work. We can see that as part-time workers make up more of the workforce, the cost goes down, but this can have negative effects on scheduling in the company, such as too many shift changes, lack of loyalty, and lack of experience on deck if something needs to be done. If firefighters are limited for whatever reason, the total cost will increase greatly due to having to pay for overtime shifts. For example, if we were missing 10 workers, the cost would be $136,000, $136,178.70, much greater than that of the benchmark.
The implications of overtime work are troubling. These employees will over time become fatigued. They're working 12-hour shifts. And if they're double shift, that's potentially a 24-hour shift. While yes, firefighters do sleep on the job when there is rest to be had, it is dangerous to schedule employees this much, not only because of the labor laws, but because of the implications firefighting has on the community at large. These people are in charge of lives, and fatigued firefighters will likely perform worse at saving people when they are fatigued. Our conclusions for the modeling problem. Additional requirements caused different behaviors in the model from the benchmark. For example, when part-time employees were added, they took up a lot of shifts. And while this does cut costs, it's infeasible because they're not as skilled as a full-time firefighter. Allowing them to join, however, is beneficial because they can take over overtime shifts when required. This is better because it keeps the skilled firefighters rested, and part-time workers can pick up the slack. Limitations on firefighters was dangerous because it does increase costs and it forces overtime to satisfy requirements. All of these together, for example, with the increase in weekly requirements, would have very dangerous implications for our community. To go over our spreadsheet, this is the benchmark solution. As you see, there are requirements beneath day schedule and night schedule, and the benchmark is satisfied by solver via here. Our compiled version looks vastly different from this. And indeed, having a more thorough analysis of your scheduling problem might look different from an Excel sheet. However, it is a good benchline. Here is the compiled version. As you see, part-time workers are consuming part of the schedules and hours, but they are limited to a constraint that limits the number of hours they're able to work. Additionally, we added number of firefighter limitations that we can test for when there's a labor shortage, someone calls out sick, and we might need an overtime shift. Overtime shift assumption was add one shift, which is a 12-hour shift, to a day of the week. Now, it's not its own shift with consecutive days and consecutive days off. And that's because overtime shifts are unexpected. They cause disruption to the system, and therefore any employee can be scheduled to them, which is why we recommend scheduling part-time employees to overtime shifts that are not required to have the certain amount of skill level that firefighters do have. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and this has been our our MSP project.